After doing 2 videos about Lupin III where I had to do extensive amount of research and thus took ages because I wanted the scripts to be as good as they can be, I feel I need a bit of a breather, something simple, something vintage again. How about another OVA, only this time from the 80s and early 90s. Found this one called Guy, but what's its genre? Well, there's action, okay, cool, I like that. There's sci-fi and it's from the 80s, right up my alley. And then there's hentai! Well, there's a first for everything on this channel. Yeah, I didn't know this was a hentai until I watched it. Now that I've seen it, I don't want to waste the time I watched it. I'll review it and never speak of it again. And I'll cover something more family friendly in the future like Wicked City. Oh fuck! Guy, Youma Kakusei, or Guy Awakening of the Devil and Guy Double Target respectively, are 2 episode OVAs released on the 6th of December 1988 and 15th of July 1992 respectively. And no, the 6th of December date wasn't a coincidence. The OVAs were produced by Anime International Company, or AIC for short, who are surprisingly still around after nearly 40 years, to an extent. Some of you may know of their previous works like Tenchi Muyo, Bubblegum Crisis, Oh My Goddess, and much more. Now the OVAs are very light on plot, but if you don't want to be spoiled, then proceed to leave immediately. And with that, onto the review.
流形惑星ジオか面白くなりそうだぜ
We have our main characters, Guy and Reina. 2 thieves are off to... wait, thieves? And here I was trying to take a break from characters who steal shit. Anyway, in the first episode, they're off to the prison planet Geo in order to find a formula for eternal youth created by scientist Dr. Valley. However, this prison doesn't really have the best conditions. The men in the cells are slave labor, having to spend days digging their way in the pits, with the danger of being mutated into monsters. Oh, and the prison exports illegal rejuvenation drugs in the process. And if you're expecting world building, then you're out of luck, because the people in the 80s didn't buy this for the plot, they came here for action and tits. I'll get to that later. The antagonist of this episode, Madame Helga Hildius Heel, has no qualms in giving these men some hot 80s anime women to, well, you know. Okay, female prisoners being forced into sex slavery for her and the male inmates because of course in the world of hentai, it's Tuesday. Also, the blue-haired girl is important thanks to this obvious shot, and who the hell is this character? He looks different from every other person and probably a cameo from one of the people involved in this OVA. Also, there's a bloke named Xena who looks androgynous, but he's straight, we swear. Later on, Guy eventually meets with Dr. Valley after being separated from the girls. Turns out the secret to eternal youth was a lie and was a formula to mutate people thanks to the virus-like DNA in the planet. A living organism... Wait, isn't this the Thing? You know, an alien being that can take over the human body and mutate them into otherworldly beings. Either way, it's just an excuse to have mutated monsters in the episode, as well as some bloody violence on the side. In terms of the main characters, Guy is a hot-headed man of action who doesn't take shit from anyone, though he has a heart of gold when the going gets tough. Though at least he's not too much of an asshole, so he has that going for him. He has super strength as he can bend prison bars like he's Kenjiro or something, and that never gets explained. He can fire his gun like nobody's business and later on can turn into a mutant, but unlike everyone else who loses their mind, body and soul to it and they look ugly as fuck, he can revert back as long as his partner can call his name and his mutation makes him look cool, and that gives him super duper strength. He can rip and tear mutants until it is done. So why is he able to revert back to being a human again when no one else can? Why does he look different compared to other people who got mutated? Never explained, and I'll get to that later. Reina is also hot-headed but useless in action scenes. She's mostly there for... Alright, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the hentai scenes. Now, because this is YouTube, I can't show you much, but I can quickly describe what happens though. Now, episode 1 has a few, with Helga and Xena doing the hokey cokey along with this black woman who's enjoying the scene. But Xena is a lover of vag of all races and does the hokey cokey with her too. Reina manages to get into the male prison and yet everyone has the face and energy of the booty warrior from the Boondocks.
Now, I tell you what, I like you. And I want you. Now we can do this the easy way or we can do it the hard way. The choice is yours.
Jesus.
There's a scene with Helga and Kara, the blue-haired girl, and they do the hokey cokey, though this one isn't consensual, and neither is the scene with Reina and Kara and a fat ugly bastard doing the hokey cokey with a gun, and he too does the hokey cokey with Reina. For about a few seconds before he's eaten by one of the mutants. Yeah, I can show you that! And despite doing the hokey cokey against her will, Reina forgets about the ordeal at the end by being an annoying bitch, because hentai has no morals. I mean, the fact that the hentai scenes are uncensored shows how times have definitely changed. The scenes overall are tame, for a hentai I mean. I know there's some vanilla / wholesome work out there, but most of you who know your way through a tentacle rave don't watch that. You watch the greasy stuff despite knowing how messed up it can get. I mean, look at the box art. You know exactly what you're getting yourself into. The one female character just wears a jacket, boots, and nothing much else. She doesn't even get any trousers. Come on, it's cold up in space. Are the hentai scenes important to the plot? Nope, because they weren't there to explore grim vibes of illegal prisons for profit. It's an exploitation affair where you're meant to beat your meat to the hentai scenes and nothing more. You know what? There's scenes where the characters get grabbed by tentacles and surprisingly are not used for the hokey cokey. And you call yourself a hentai. For shame. The English dub by ADV Films is alright. Rob Mongol plays Guy. His voice is oddly suave for a character like him. He acts like he's the guy who's going to do the hokey cokey, but surprisingly not the one doing any of that. In fact, he never gets to do any of that in both episodes. How odd. Tiffany Grant plays Reina in her first anime role, and yes, she does moan and groan for your English dubbing pleasure. Hey, did you know she would go on to voice Asuka in Neon Genesis Evangelion? Matt Greenfield, who voices Xena, hams it up and has the most hilariously performed line in the OVA as he gets the hell out of Dodge.
And have another, you freak! Ah! Oh shit, no ammo.
But let's talk about the Japanese cast. Kazui Ikura voices Reina. She also voiced Kaori Makimura in the anime adaptation of City Hunter, voiced Tony Chopper in One Piece for several episodes, after the original voice actress, Ikui Otani, left the role temporarily, Lenny Milchstrasse in the... What the fuck is it? Right. Lenny in the Sakura War series and much more. Gara Takashima voices Helga. She also voiced Perrine Valley in the Madball 34 OVA, Julia in Cowboy Bebop, and the live-action counterpart 2, Sayaka in the Fist of the North Star anime adaptation and much more. But then there's Koichi Yamadera, this bloke. You know what he voiced? Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop, and a fucking live-action shot. Togusa in the Ghost in the Shell series, Silver Zoldyck in the Hunter x Hunter 2011 series, he's the current voice actor of Zenigata in the Loop on the 3rd series, Ryoji Kaji in Neon Genesis Evangelion, Destruction God Beerus in modern Dragon Ball media! The animation is decent, though with the first episode alone being 30 minutes, I expected better. It has its moments, but not anything that makes me glee in fascination. It's fine overall, and it gets the job done. And of course there's some specific detail in the hentai scenes. I'm wondering if that's where the budget went. The character designs, yeah, these are my kind of jam. Guy looks manly and cool, and the female designs are also great. Helga in particular just embodies evil in her design, one who likes to play with girls herself, but will also take it by a bloke. Bisexuality, because being gay is apparently evil. Oh fuck, I'm not going there, moving on. My issue with the first episode as well as the second one is that, well, they're 30 minutes. They tried to jam-pack plots that really needed a lot more time and development but get nothing, as a lot of moments go by really fast to get to the hentai moments, resulting in speedy pacing that hurts the OVA in general, especially episode 1, where plot points and ideas get introduced but not properly explained. Hey, did you know that Madame Helga is obsessed with jewelry? That's only established in the ending? Did you know Kara is kind of Guy's girlfriend and in the end she dies and you're meant to feel sad about it, despite the fact that Guy nor Kara's relationship between the two were ever developed? But hey, you've already blown your cannoli, so feel guilty about it, you bastard. Yeah, the OVA has its violent moments, but this scene where Kara has her hair torn off is the only time it goes this extreme, at least when humans are involved. Oh, and after the prison is obliterated, only 10% of prisoners ever made it out alive. At least it's more plausible than everyone surviving a deadly car crash with minor injuries loop on the 3rd part 1. The action scenes are good, but don't have much that are entirely memorable, and like everything else in this OVA, goes by very quickly. And that's all I have to say about episode 1. It's fine, but could have been better. I'll explain later.
さてと次の獲物は何にするかな。
Episode 2 has the thieving duo travel into the planet Froban, not Freezer by the way, where they try to steal a gold statue, but have to deal with two religious folk who want to revive said statue so they can be one with it and take over the universe. Starting with the opening, we got an action scene in a casino, and it's a much more fun scene than what we got in the first episode, and the music is cooler too. I love this track here. Oh, and the 80s J-pop track is cool too. Shame it doesn't have any relation to the plot and it's just there to hype itself up, because everything that happens afterwards is, unfortunately, way more disappointing. And before you ask, no, I didn't add that. That's literally in the OVA sub and dub. Don't ask me why. That seriously takes you out of it, doesn't it? Anyway, the People's Free Church of Froban is basically a cult, where people worship the founders, Arcana and Youma, as gods, and many rich folk have to pay their dues to them via a shit ton of space cash. They have some waft powers that blow away Gaia at one point, and can use their blood to make mutants. But despite that, they're not effective and threatening villains compared to Madame Helga, and even she was mediocre for this series. Most of the plot revolves around Reina getting into the church headquarters, and Guy following suit and infiltrating when Reina spots the huge loot. Now in terms of the hentai scenes, well, in this episode there's only one between Arcana and Youma. It's consensual, and it implies that they have a healthy relationship, and the scene they're in is far more interesting character-wise. But this is all you get for something like this, and the scene is short but it doesn't feel dirty. The kind of thing you'd see in a vanilla hentai, because not all hentai has to be non-consensual hokey cokey. But if a Japanese otaku brought this back in the day expecting some animated filth to the extreme, they might have been disappointed, especially if they watched episode 1. To be honest, I was expecting Reina being involved in some dirty deeds with the main villains, but all we get is her being brainwashed into killing Guy and that's it. The character designs for the main villains are decent, but Arcana's getup is bloody ridiculous in the best way possible. It's as if she's compensating for absolutely nothing. But when she's not in that boxy dress, I can appreciate her hairstyle, and that's about it. She has a facial design that's like many other female villains in anime, pretty generic. The animation has been improved somewhat, much cleaner and a bit more bright, but bright done right. The action scenes are better here, but has the same issue of they end too quickly. Yorihisa Uchida was the director and writer for the OVAs, and surprisingly has done some notable work from Mobile Suit Gundam to Full Metal Panic to even Giant Gorg, which I've covered a while ago. He also worked on Lover-in-Law, The Legend of Lion Flare, The Karma Sayuki, and The Dark Knight Ingrid. Yeah, something tells me you know what that last one is. The notable monster designs were made by Masami Obari, mostly known for his mecha designs, but the mutants here are over-the-top creatures, though you don't really get to see them in action all that much, apart from eating a few humans and the highlight that is the final fight in episode 2. The design for Guy's mutant form is pretty cool. I get the vibe of a mecha devil man, but unfortunately it's difficult to appreciate since there's not enough moments of his form in any of the episodes. And that's about it. Episode 2 ends with a to be continued, though we would never get a third episode and I'm not exactly in demand for one. The Guy series is another set of anime with a ton of potential, but Uchida decided to make simple plots that are pretty forgettable, and ones that needed more time to flourish. I feel the episodes needed to be at least an hour each to let their plots breathe. The action scenes are fine, but they have the issue of coming and going in a disappointing light. Speaking of coming, the hentai scenes are, well, hentai is not my thing to an extent, but for the 80s, before the internet, it was probably tolerable, though it doesn't go as crazy as others then and now. With that said, I like the look of both episodes. The animation is good, but not great, with some action scenes done decently and the hentai scenes done well, because of course it did. The music is okay, just not memorable, with only a couple of tracks I do like. You might say that this is a hentai and therefore the plot doesn't have to be perfect, and you would be right if the hentai scenes weren't so underplayed. Maybe this is an example of hentai that has become dated as future animated work would go way over the top with their content, that this felt dull in comparison. But what do I know? I'm an anime reviewer, not a hentai connoisseur. Heart Vegan's your guy for the dirty work. Again, I only did this because I wanted something much simpler to review and I assumed the 2-episode OVA I found on YouTube wouldn't be a problem. I didn't know it was a hentai because I watched the version that removed those scenes and was heavily censored. So I got curious and found the missing scenes, and that's when I discovered what this OVA series actually was. Well, I'll do a little bit of research next time. This one was my fault, but at the very least I managed to write something about it. And some of you watched this video all the way to the end. Didn't you? And hey, I released this after No Not November. You at least gotta thank me for that. If for whatever reason you want to own a copy of this, there are VHS tapes and DVDs, especially in the US. There are 2 versions on VHS. The edited version removes the majority of the hentai scenes, whilst the uncut version shows you everything. I'm wondering which version sold the most. The DVD, on the other hand, is the edited version, so you're shit out of luck if you wanted to watch those kinds of scenes on disc. But since they're out of print, you can find the episodes on YouTube, though they are heavily edited. Though you can find the uncensored version subbed in English on the net, but I won't tell you where. You might like it for what it is, some might call it trashy, though in a good way. I just expected more action. And not in that way, but I'll go looking for more anime for my tastes. But please remember this, no matter what you like, there's an anime for everyone. And this one was made for somebody. Also, there's a guy figure, and yes, it's expensive as shit. So that's it, my first hentai review. By complete accident. You may believe me or not, but either way, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share with other men and women of culture.